Hi, and welcome to another episode of Refuge in Conversation with. I'm Becky, and I work within the Technology Facilitated Abuse and Economic Empowerment team at Refuge. My role as the tech lead linked with the National Domestic Abuse Helpline varies from day to day and includes a wide range of tasks, but my favourite elements of the role include working with and delivering training to our amazing advisors and volunteers on the helpline and directly supporting survivors experiencing technology facilitated abuse. But enough about me. I'm really excited to be joined by our very own economic specialist, Phoebe. We're diving into a topic that's becoming more relevant as we all spend more time online dating, and more specifically, romance fraud. Before we get started, I do want to mention that today's episode will touch on some sensitive topics, including domestic abuse. If you're listening today and feel that you might need help with anything we've been discussing, there is support available. Here at Refuge, we run the National Domestic Abuse Helpline, which you can reach on 0808 2000 247. It's open 24 hours a day, every day of the year, and is run by women highly trained in responding to domestic abuse. We have BSL interpreters available 10 till 6, Monday to Friday. So, welcome to our podcast, Phoebe. It's really great to have you with us today. Just quickly, for those who might not know, Phoebe and I work quite closely at Refuge, and today we're here to share some of our expertise, which intersects quite nicely. Phoebe, could you start by telling us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Becky. It's really lovely to be here. So, my role is actually quite varied. I deliver training, I carry out research, and I manage a partnership. And I even get involved in a little bit of policy work. But honestly, the most important part of my job, and the bit that I would say I probably enjoy the most, is supporting survivors. I am an economic abuse specialist, so I do spend quite a lot of time talking to banks on survivors' behalf. I also help to initiate fraud investigations and really just deal with any financial concerns that have arisen through economic abuse. Basically, anything that helps survivors to regain control over their finances, and sadly, sometimes that does include issues that have arisen through online dating.
So, it really is a pretty varied role, isn't it? And you're doing a lot of really important work. Online dating is definitely something that we could talk about for hours, and we're actually recording this episode just around World Romance Scam Prevention Day, which is on October the 3rd. So today we're focusing on the risks that our survivors face on these platforms, and more specifically on the issue of romance fraud. For anyone that might not be familiar, could you please explain what romance fraud is, Phoebe?
Sure. So, romance fraud, which you might have also heard referred to as romance scamming, is where a scammer creates a fake identity with the sole purpose of starting a romantic relationship with someone online. So, their goal is basically to gain the person's trust and eventually their money. These scammers are often found on dating sites, but they also use social media and even emails to target people. They build the most elaborate backstories with the sole intention of building a deep emotional bond. So when they do ask for money, it feels very legitimate, especially considering the amount of time they might have spent talking to each other. So some scammers talk to their victims for months before they even ask for any money. Interestingly, Barclays Bank have been doing quite a lot of work around romance fraud and found that up to a third of consumers say that they've been put off online dating, are also dating on apps due to the fear of romance scammers. And the majority agreed that dating apps and social media sites are unsafe due to romance scammers operating on these platforms. They also found that 1 in 4 people have encouraged a family member or friend to stop online dating due to concerns over romance scams. And to give you an idea of how big the issue actually is, a 2024 report by Action Fraud highlighted a 60% increase in reports of romance fraud, and that was just since 2019. So that's really quite alarming and shows just how many people are falling victim to these scams.
It really is. And at Refuge, especially on the technology facilitated abuse and economic empowerment team, we've helped survivors who are using our services to identify these scams and sadly, on occasion, have had to support them to undo the consequences. And unfortunately, because dating platforms are literally designed for forming connections, they've become a hotbed for this kind of fraud. Phoebe, we know romance fraud happens outside of dating apps. We've already talked about them using social media and email. What other online spaces are romance scammers using?
Sure. So While online dating platforms are a big target, these scams can happen absolutely anywhere that people are trying to connect. So, social media, forums, email chains, even via things like text messaging. Research by Barclays actually showed that 35% of romance scam claims originated on dating sites and apps, while 44% started on social media. So, that's still over 20% that actually originate elsewhere. You see, scammers adapt to different online spaces to build trust and also to exploit them. On online dating platforms, they might create fake profiles and engage in conversations to create a false sense of intimacy. On social media, they might follow and message potential victims and pretend to share common interests or even mutual friends. In forums or discussion groups, they might actively participate with multiple members to gain trust before moving the conversation with their target over onto private messages. They'll even use unsolicited emails or texts to approach people directly, so even sending random messages in the hope that they'll get a response from someone. I mean, we even see scammers targeting multiplayer online games where they befriend players, develop trust over time, and then shift conversations to private chats to eventually ask for money. And at the end of the day, the goal is always the same, and that's to manipulate the victim emotionally and then financially. So they, of course, will use any platform available as long as there's another person at the end of it.
Beyond just romance fraud, we also hear about other safety concerns on online platforms from survivors. Things like catfishing, where someone is using a fake profile to stalk or harass, or doxing, where personal information is shared without consent. And then there's intimate image abuse, which is another serious issue we're seeing more of. Phoebe, we've talked a bit about how we support survivors of romance fraud, but I know that this is no typical journey. Could you walk us through what we commonly see when someone experiences romance fraud?
Yeah, sure. So the journey usually starts with a simple connection on a dating app or social media. For example, let's take Sarah, who meets David, a charming and seemingly successful man who quickly develops a deep emotional connection with her. David's profile is really carefully crafted, so he's often good looking, successful, and leads a life that seems just that little bit out of reach, which of course makes him quite appealing, but also slightly elusive. Over a few weeks, their online relationship intensifies. They're messaging every day using very affectionate language, and David is even doing things like sending flowers or photos of places they plan to visit together. David then suggests they move their chat to a private platform. So this could be something like WhatsApp or even encrypted apps like Telegram, which makes the scam much harder to trace and it also feels much more intimate. And once that trust is firmly established, David will introduce a crisis. He might claim his bank account has been frozen or he is suddenly stranded in a foreign country. He might say something like, "I've never asked anyone for help like this, but I don't know what else to do." Which is when he pleads for Sarah's help. He likely promises to pay her back as soon as the issue is resolved, which of course we know is a lie. So, wanting to support someone she loves, Sarah will send the money. At first, this might be a small amount, but once David knows she's willing to help, his requests will escalate. A common tactic is to introduce a sense of urgency, saying things like, "If I don't get this sorted today, I could lose my job," or "I've never felt this way before. When this is all over, we'll finally be together." So you can see how scammers play on their victims' emotions, alternating between gratitude and also guilt. They might say, "You're the only one I can trust," or even turn the tables. So Sarah might be made to feel guilty for questioning him. As the requests for money increase, David might even invent new emergencies. So he might ask for funds for a legal dispute or unexpected medical costs. Or a common one is a visa so they can come and visit their victim. We often find that this only works for a finite period of time. So in this case, Sarah might start to notice things that just don't quite feel right. So maybe David avoids video chats or cancels visits last minute, and they're often with wild excuses, such as they had a car accident or there's been a bereavement. Sarah's friends or family might even express concern, and they might also sense that something is off. So Sarah might then raise these doubts with David, but he will become defensive, saying things like, "How could you not trust me after everything we've been through?" Or, "I thought you believed in us." So you can see that by him manipulating her emotions, he keeps her engaged and makes her feel guilty for doubting him. It's only when David disappears, maybe after Sarah refuses to send money, or when she realises that his stories don't add up, that she faces the painful truth that David was in fact never real and that she's actually been scammed.
That's really insightful, Phoebe. Hearing about Sarah's story really brings home how calculated and manipulative these scams can be. It's quite scary, isn't it, how easily scammers can create that sense of intimacy and how they exploit trust and emotions over time to keep people hooked. The way David escalated his requests and twisted Sarah's feelings of guilt and loyalty, it's all really systematic and cruel. And it's really important to emphasise that this isn't Sarah's fault at all. Scammers are experts at what they do, and anyone can fall victim to their tactics. They prey on kindness and vulnerability, and there's absolutely no shame in being deceived by someone who is intentionally trying to manipulate you. It does, however, make it clear how important it is to stay cautious and aware when engaging with people online. It's easy to see how someone could fall into this trap, especially when they're genuinely searching for love or connection. But, as you pointed out, there are warning signs, like pushing for private conversations very quickly or avoiding video calls. Recognizing these red flags early is really important. So, for anyone listening, whether you're a survivor, someone supporting a survivor, or thinking about online dating, here are some tips to help stay safer. Be mindful of the personal information that you share. Would you be comfortable sharing this with a stranger on the street? Avoid linking your social media accounts to your dating profile. You might share more than you intend. Use a separate email address for dating accounts so that they're not connected to any other accounts you use. Create strong, unique passwords for each dating account and make sure it's not something that's easily guessable. Review the privacy and security settings for each app. Things like enabling two-factor authentication or setting your location manually can really help protect your privacy. Think about what is in the photos that you post. Could they reveal your location or link back to other social media profiles? What information are they giving away? Use platform tools to report harassment or abusive content and block users as needed. Phoebe, is there anything you'd like to add specifically about spotting romance fraud?
Yeah, definitely. It's really important that people know how to protect themselves, and I think you've outlined those steps really well. I think all I'll add is the warning flags that you might see from the scammers themselves. So, things you might see are things like the scammer declaring love very quickly. They might also claim to be far away. So, for example, they might state they're working overseas. They'll almost always avoid video calls and definitely meeting in person, and will push to move the conversation off the platform quite quickly. Though I will point out that some scammers have also been known to use AI to create very realistic video calls. So if you do video call and something looks off with the video, maybe it's glitching or there's a bit of a lag, it's very plausible that it is AI generated. Other things they might do are things like creating fake emergencies, which is a gateway for them asking for financial help, and they might become defensive if you refuse. Often their photos might look too perfect, so you can do something called a reverse image search, which will help you see if the pictures are being used elsewhere or if they belong to someone else. They might also pressure you to keep the relationship private. It's a really big red flag if they're saying things like, "Don't tell anyone about our relationship." And finally, a really important point from Barclays is that celebrities and public figures are very unlikely to form private relationships with their social media followers and then ask for money. If this happens to you, it's probably a scam. So if you do notice these signs, it's really important to stay cautious and work on the assumption that you are being scammed. It's also so important never to send money to someone you don't know and that you've never met.
Some really great points there, Phoebe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me, Becky.
I've really enjoyed our conversation. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for, but I hope that our discussion about navigating online dating and understanding romance fraud has been helpful for our listeners. If you've been affected by any of the topics we've covered today, please don't hesitate to call the National Domestic Abuse Helpline at 0808 2000 247 from a safe device. You can also live chat with a helpline advisor online, Monday to Friday from 3 pm to 10 pm. And we have BSL interpreters available from 10 am to 6 pm Monday to Friday. If you or someone you know has experienced romance fraud, there are a number of things you can do that will help your situation. If you think you've been scammed or defrauded, you can report the crime to the police. It's important to provide them with as much information as possible, including any communications, bank transfer details, and links to the scammer's profile or contact details. You can also reach out to Action Fraud, which is the UK's National Reporting Centre for Fraud and Cybercrime. You can report romance fraud through their online reporting tool at www.actionfraud.police.uk, or you can call their helpline. Once you report the crime, they'll assess the case and may investigate further or pass the information on to law enforcement. They can also offer advice on how to protect yourself going forward. It's also really good to remember that many online dating platforms and social media apps have built-in reporting features where you can flag suspicious profiles or messages. It's always a really good idea to report the scammer on the platform where you met them. This not only helps to block them from contacting you, but also prevents them from targeting others. Crime Stoppers also has a helpful e-booklet on romance fraud, which walks through common tactics that scammers use, signs to watch out for, and what steps to take if you think you've been a victim. You can visit their website to download the booklet, which is an excellent resource for educating yourself and others. And of course, if you want more advice on romance fraud or any other form of abuse on online dating platforms, you can contact the National Domestic Abuse Helpline for support. We've also got resources on securing your tech at www.refugetechsafety.org. This site has useful guides on how to protect your devices, online accounts, and personal information, which can help prevent tech abuse and keep you safer online. For more information on tech abuse, visit refugetechsafety.org. Thank you for listening and take care.